To this film. Juan, thank you for coming.
Thanks, Juan.
Juan Yepes is a Colombian film producer, production coordinator, and post-supervisor. His most recent production is the documentary Igualada, which tells the story, as you saw, of Vice President Francia Márquez, premiered at the Sundance Film Festival. His work has been celebrated with the Audience Award at Doc NYC, Cine Las Americas, the Grand Jury Prize at the Seattle International Film Festival, and recognition at the Environmental Film Festival at Yale. So I'll open with a few questions, and then we'll, as soon as we can, open this up to the audience. So first, Juan, how did this project get started?
Sure, yeah. Thanks everybody for coming and watching our film. So we were following Francia, and I'm from Colombia. Director Juan Mejia is from Colombia as well. We have been working together for a little bit of time, and we have been in this area of Colombia many times, in the Pacific and south side of Colombia, and we were following the stories of social leaders in this area. Francia Márquez at the time was one of them. A lot of the footage that you see in the film when Francia was younger is footage that we filmed for other projects, especially one project that we did about her community, a short documentary called La Toma, which was about the struggle of the people in this community and how they were being forced out of the community from corporations that wanted to come to the area to do mining of gold and just kind of do a more industrial mining of these mineral resources, and Francia was strongly opposed to it and wanted to have more regulation in terms of how these corporations come, what concessions are given to them, and she, at the time, successfully blocked these corporations from coming and let the community be, sufficient to manage these resources themselves. But that came with a lot of struggle in terms of her activism, a lot of threats to her life, like you saw a little bit on the film. And eventually, we kept working with her, helping her. She was displaced of her community, as you saw in the film also. And in 2019, 2020, she was toying with the idea of running for president in the primaries of Colombia. She called Juan, the director, and said, "Hey, I'm thinking of running for president." And he kind of said, "Are you crazy? Like, this is too much, it's not that easy to run for president," but as she always does, she surprised us and was had a really strong feeling to do this and to fight for the rights of her community. And she kept going, so we told her, if you're gonna run for president, let us be part of this, and we support you, but we also want to do a documentary about your journey.
So, one of the things I wanted to ask you about most was that I saw those wonderful films from 2009 when she was much younger, and I thought, my God, did these guys know what was going to happen years later? So you were actually following her for another project.
Yeah, so, it's, I guess, filmmaker's luck in a way, but also, putting your energy in the right places, which means, just connecting with people, and following them, keep in touch. We as I mentioned, did this film with her about this specific moment from 2009 to 2011, where she was fighting in her community for these, mining concessions that were kind of a political fight in a way. So to us, Igualada is kind of a representation of the many fights that Francia has fought through her career as an activist. The vice presidency or the presidency being another fight, like another big fight that she held.
Now, you're showing this at film festivals. Has this been seen in Colombia? And what's the reaction there?
Yeah, good question. We have shown it in many festivals. We've been lucky that the film has gotten a lot of good reception in US, in Europe, in South America. But in Colombia, we have shown it at a couple of festivals, but it also had a theatrical run in August for about a month and a half. It's still in some of the small theaters there, but we showed it there. We actually premiered it as a private screening for Francia and her family, her community, and it was well taken. It's been 2 years of her being in office, and sometimes talking in private to her is very draining, it's very, it's hard to find the energy to keep fighting, but she mentioned that this film kind of brought a little bit of why she's doing this, why her movement, Soy Porque Somos, is doing this as well. So in a way, re-energize them or remind them what they are about, which to us is very, very, warm to hear that something you did is kind of a representation of what they did and how they did it and the energy they put into it, because in the end, as Colombian, this to me is a historical document of what happened in 2022 and the years leading to that, because there has never been a government that is on the left side of politics and also that is trying to make Colombia more, trying to have social programs that were not there before, and also having a vice president that is a black woman from a rural background from where Francia is from. So we wanted to have these also as an archival of our country, basically.
And has this film been shown at film festivals in other countries where there are similar issues with, Yeah.
So of course this is a political film that
Yeah.
hints of those notes, and we wanted also to make a film that is more universal, that is not, as Colombians making a film about Colombia, we didn't want to get into the details of the politics in Colombia, the parties, the social unrest, the civil war that we had, and is to some degree still happening. So we didn't want to get into those details, make a film more universal. The editor was Andrea Cignoli, a Chilean filmmaker, and I think with that view, what's happening is being shown in a lot of Latin American countries, like Mexico and Argentina, in Uruguay, in Ecuador, places that have similar struggles because they're in the region, but it's also being shown in Africa, and Zimbabwe, in Angola, in Ghana,
Yeah.
in South Africa. So this, connecting with organizations, with community leaders that want to show this film as a testament, and to us is as well, of, you can do a different kind of politics that kind of reach out to more of your community to really understand what people want, as opposed to being, dictated by policies of corporations and bigger interests that sometimes don't align really closely with the people that support you.
Okay, I'd like to open this up to questions from the audience. I have to tell you the lights are blinding from here, so if you raise your hand, you may have to wave it around a bit, because I'm not sure I'll see it.
I think I see a hand over there.
Okay, over there, yes sir. And we'll get you a microphone. Thank you. Yep.
In the film, the people who live in that small town seem to be living in very primitive conditions. Is that currently still the living conditions there, or are they living now in more modern housing situations?
Yeah, so this area of Colombia, in Department of Cauca, in the south, is very, in a way, forgotten area of Colombia, so it's still very similar, unfortunately. There has been some development in Francia, and some of the politics have shifted, thankfully, to build better roads. They actually built the first university in the area last year, or started to build that. It's not finished yet. But at the same time, the hard thing to understand too, and for me as well, is that change doesn't come so fast. There is still a lot of infrastructure and things that need to happen that is not gonna be changed overnight. It's been improving, but it's also at the same time in Colombia, to not get into too much detail, there is also a conflict based on the narco traffic, but at the same time armed groups that want to control the area, which is again not easy because he's forgotten from the government for many years. So at the same time, there is not too much investment from the private sector to develop the area, but it's being revitalized in a way, but it's going to take a little bit of time. Thank you for the question.
Yes, anyone else? Yes, we've got, I think, two hands there. Here's one. Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, thank you.
Thank
Very, very interesting film.
Thank you.
I just wondered, as Francia was trying to secure this office, she was putting herself and her family often at great physical risk and danger. I just wondered, in the process of your doing this documentary and your team, what that meant to you and for you, and what kind of maybe efforts you had to take, and what that looked like for you.
Sure, thank you. It's a great question. So, yes, Francia, as a social leader and environmentalist, has been always, at least since I met her, under threat in general from armed groups, from other interests that don't like what she's doing. And then, based on her being more visible, then of course those threats get a little bit more present. In Colombia, unfortunately, is the country where most social leaders are under threat and are assassinated every year. It still is. And again, that's how we started trying to tell these stories from our country, and that's how Francia became the main protagonist of the film. But yes, during the production specifically, because Francia is under such a threat, she always had her security detail with her, especially, and more so when she was a candidate, like the government provides that as a service for candidates, political candidates, but also for social activists. They do that. So we, in a way, shielded ourselves and trusted her judgment and the judgment of her family and her community when we couldn't go to the community because there was something going on, and when they advised us like, hey, maybe stay away for a week or something because some things are not looking right, and maybe don't come here, or don't come with her because she needs to do something and go back quickly. She cannot spend the night. So we were under constant talk with her security detail, with her community as well, and most of the people know us from before. So it's not that we were there as somebody that's never been there. And then, but yeah, it was, we never, to answer your question also, we never felt that we were under threat, although the threat of being with Francia is always there, but we never felt like something extra just because we were there. So it was, in a way, very safe production, even though there was always that cloud of insecurity going around that area of Colombia and around being in a political campaign. Thank you.
Yes, a question over here.
Yes, first of all,
Right to the mic.
well, thank you. First of all, thank you for your really important work. I'm interested myself in the intersection of art and politics, which is, I believe, what you are attempting to achieve, and I think you did it so very well. I also love your reference to how your film is being shown around the world, and we're really talking about decolonization. Do you have a sense whether your film is actually inspiring a response to colonization in Africa and in South America and other parts of the world? Do you have a sense of whether it's making a difference?
Yes, definitely. That's what we hope to inspire the new generations, to inspire a different kind of politics, that a different kind of politics is possible. There's been some talks around it, like these kind of conversations after the film, or when we're not there, comments of people that attended the screening or watched the film about being inspired or wanting to show the film again in closer circles to inspire people to start a new conversation. We also are planning to do an impact campaign in South America, specifically in Colombia. But there's always comments, and we're grateful for that inspired. Like one time, as an anecdote, we were in Mexico, in Mexico City, and one person from the crowd, a black woman, said, how can we have a Francia in Mexico? That doesn't exist. So to me that was inspirational, but we said there might be many Francias in Mexico. You just need somebody has to raise their hand and say, hey, I want to be that person. Nobody, like Francia never says, she was never called upon from a political party to say, hey, run for us because you're the one we want. She just kind of took the fight into her own hands. She's that force of nature that keeps you there, that she kept us. So it's just a matter of, again, inspire people. Like certainly in Colombia, a lot of a lot of women, black women or rural women are more inspired to say, not just in politics, but saying, hey, just for the fact that she's in office saying, I can do that too. I don't need to be the housemaid. I don't need to be the one that goes and clean the hotels and things like that. I can be something else. I can go to school and be better. And that's, with the impact campaign, that's why we want to also really encourage. Like, this is something that you can be something that you want to be, and you can go to school and have a different future. You don't need to sometimes media and the movies even tell us dates in Colombia as well. Like when you watch a soap opera, it's always these stereotype of black women in Colombia, of the black community, that you don't need to believe that. You can create your own reality, basically. That's what we want to do, and to a certain degree we see it happening, but hopefully with an impact campaign we can make a better noise and have that hit a little bit stronger. Thank you.
We have another question right back there, David.
I have a question. How long is the term?
Hold on, wait for the mic, please.
You may have answered this when I stepped out momentarily. What is the term for presidency and vice presidency in Colombia, and is she still in office, and what's Ms. France's future looking like?
Yeah, that's a complicated question. The term started in 2022, so it's been 2 years. The total term is 4 years. But in Colombia, there is no re-election of president. She could run as a president. She can run for president. She's the vice president. But the current president cannot run again. Privately, when we asked her about that, about, hey, are you thinking maybe continuing your political career? Not even asking about running for president. She always jokes and said, I'm tired. This is not what I want in my life. Basically, it's just, she still is under constant threat. Very, very racial, very political in the term that she's not a politician, a traditional politician with a career. So she still suffers of those attacks and those like, oh, you're a black woman that don't know anything, you don't have experience, you don't talk like we do, talking about politicians that went to like the best schools in Colombia and the best universities. So she still is very draining for her to be under constant defense. I don't know, I think she will continue, personally hope she will continue her political career. And then I don't know if she will try to run for president, but she will probably continue in some level to be part of the politics in Colombia.
In Colombia, does the vice president have any power independent of the president? And what is her relationship to the president, or with the president?
She has a good relationship with the president. They're aligned in their politics, but of course they clash all the time. And she's a very strong woman in what she thinks and what she believes. She don't want. Sometimes that's even to her detriment, that she says what she wants for her people. So sometimes politicians don't do that because you cannot say that in public. And again, that's who she is. But she has a good relationship with the vice president. Like most vice president, is just like a figure that is more of international relations, and they have some programs, but most of the time not meaningful. One of the big things that she did is they started a new ministry in Colombia, a new secretary, which is the Ministry of Equality in Colombia. And they started that, but then politics, all the politicians in the Senate and the House are fighting to knock down that ministry. She is the vice president and the minister of equality, which holds the office for women, the office for youth rights, for domestic work. So it's a lot of kind of overseeing the equality of Colombian society, which was the flag of her campaign. With that office, they have a bigger budget and they have bigger things to do, which that started last year. So they're just beginning to really have an agenda on things to do. As a vice president, she has done a lot of opening the borders with Africa, having a commercial relationship with Africa, with the global South in general. She visited Africa with a committee of business entrepreneurs, Colombian black entrepreneurs, like things from all backgrounds to like open the borders in terms of having a commercial relationship. They're having like one of the first flights from Africa to Colombia, you know, like kind of opening the border in a way, exploring different ways to interchange culturally, because that's, you know, like heritage of Francia and her community, and opening that up. She's trying to do that in terms of being an ambassador for black people in Colombia.
Okay. Yes, over here. We'll get you a microphone.
Excellent film, thank you very much.
Thank you.
How old is Francia, and what do her sons do?
I'll tell you how old she is, but she will like it. She's 41, or she's going to be 41 or 42 in December. She's birthday is coming in December. You said her son? So their son, because of the campaign, because of the threats, they had to flee the country. One, Kevin, the one that is more prominent in the film, he's in the school in the United States. When we're filming, he was in Boston studying English, and that's where he came to do, you know, just to keep her life going in terms of going to school, and he wanted to learn English and be here. He, in a way, wants to follow the steps of her mom, he's doing political science, but right now he's studying in Delaware in the university there, so nearby. And Adrian, the oldest, he is in Cuba studying medicine. And he's been there since 2020 or something, when you know, she said, I cannot, going back to the question before, like the threats are constant, but he cannot have an umbrella under her whole family, especially her mom and her kids. So they need to be more, you know, unsupervised. So they decided to leave the country. Her mom is still with her in Cali, in Colombia.
I have another question.
Sure.
Outside of the obvious reasons, what inspired you?
Sure. I mean, to us, again, as a Colombian and as a filmmaker, we want to tell good stories, but we also want to tell the stories of people that are often not heard or are not part of the mainstream, because we think like these spaces will allow us to have these kind of conversations and to meet people, interesting people, or interested in stories that are not often told, and that deserve the space to be told. So we, as to go back to one of the initial questions, we have been following Francia and her community for a little bit of time, more than 15 years. And we always knew there was something there, a story to be told, and at the end, Francia became this story, this way to tell the story of her community, of black people in Colombia, of rural people in Colombia that again are not represented in the media in Colombia specifically, but also in a lot of people sometimes tell me that they didn't know there were black people in Colombia. So it's starting with that in international settings. So it's just understanding that Colombia is also a very diverse country, and that they have all people from all kinds of backgrounds that are aspiring to lead the country and to make it better for everybody. And for us, it's more about telling that story that deserves to be told, the underrepresented stories that deserve to be told.
You did an excellent job.
Theodora, go ahead. Let's get a microphone for her.
Wait for the microphone really quick.
Thank you so much. As chair of the Martin Luther King Committee, it is our honor to have been a part of sponsoring your presence here today, because your presence not only tells us a story, but it impacts us and how we are living today. It is so important. And then I hope that each of us, as we leave here today, will be fueled with some hope that change can occur when you reach across and become a part of people who are may look different from us, but whose ideas and hopes are the same. And so we want to thank you. And I personally want to thank the Martin Luther King Committee for joining in with the League of Women Voters to make this possible.
Thank you.
I think we have time for probably one more audience question, and then I'll take the last question. Yes, sir, over here.
Just talking to him. Hi. Very much enjoyed the film. I do have a question about what seemed very important was the signature process. First starting with people signing different petitions, and then actually, I guess, part of the voting process. What were, if any, were the challenges associated with the signatures when the petitions were going on? Were they challenged? Were there a whole bunch of lawyers involved? How did that all, we know how it's working, or has worked here. Just, that wasn't really covered in the film. Maybe it wasn't that important, maybe it was, I don't know. I'd just be curious as to if there were any challenges to the signatures and how they were dealt with. Did they go to the courts? Was it a back and forth type of thing? If you could perhaps talk a little bit about that. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, that was quite a process. So in the end, like when Francia decided to run, she didn't have a political party. When you don't have a political party, she had her movement called Soy Porque Somos, I am because we are. Then you need a number of signatures, which is a percentage of the electorate, which they estimated around 1 million signatures they needed to get from over 18 people in Colombia, voting age in Colombia. And they start getting the signatures. The process is very, like you saw in the film, very manual, very, you know, grassroots in a way, but like most places, it can be industrialized. With people that have money basically buy signatures. They say, okay, I pay your organization, I give you $1 per signature or whatever. I don't know if that's the price, I'm just saying something, but most political parties that have money, they want to describe a candidate, they get the signatures in a very industrial way. Francia didn't have the money or the resources, they ran a very grassroots way to get signatures, like going to the communities, going to the parks, going to on Sunday, going to get signatures. They managed to get around 200,000, so they didn't even come close to the million. So at that time, and this film in general, as a side note, is a film that finished many times. Not getting the signature being one of them. So with the director and the other producers, we were like, okay, this is the end. How are we going to film? What is the end for that film? But Francia always kept surprising us. Even if they get the film, they found a way to keep going. In this case was, you can run for presidency either because you start your own party with the signatures or because you get a political party to back you up. And in this case, when you know, paying people to go and get signatures every day, all over the country basically, and they were trying to do that, but it was very hard, and at the end they didn't achieve.
Yeah, I have one last question for you, and that is, what else are you?
If you have more questions, I'll be outside and we can keep talking.
Okay. Yeah. What are you working on? What else are you working on now? The normal end question, right?
I would say that question because I don't have the right answer. It's just hard. Like these kind of projects are very emotionally. You invest, you put your heart into it, and of course we're very invested in presenting the film, bringing it to audiences like this to present it. So I guess that's one thing. I also mentioned we're trying to raise funds for an impact campaign in Colombia to like really, you know, get out to vote campaign, to like educating communities about this process. So that's one thing. But we are filmmakers, so we are also trying to get off the ground different films that we haven't. We're investigating things about immigration, about the prison system in the U.S. and women's rights in Colombia, but there is nothing set yet, but hopefully coming soon. And we'll make sure to bring it here again.
Do you think this will be available on streaming at all?
It is, we're working on it. Like probably in 2025 there'll be some announcement. We have an Instagram if you want to follow us to keep in touch. Is Igualada_film. And we post when we have screenings, and of course if there is a big announcement like a streaming service, we have been talking to streamers but also to public media to have the film seen all over the US, in US, in Canada, in Europe. So some announcements probably coming soon, and more festivals I hope.
Well, thank you very much, Juan.
Thanks everybody.